Well, obviously our initial debate was whether or not to do Death Proof by itself.
Yeah.
Because it's the Tarantino movie.
Of course.
Especially this one being the... it was like 89 minutes when it was attached with Grindhouse. As it is, it's almost 2 hours.
God.
And it was it by itself was in the Cannes lineup in 2007.
Nice.
Or to do it as Grindhouse, because I know for a fact Tarantino was on hand almost as a second director for Planet Terror, basically.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Rodriguez had a lot to do with Death Proof or what, but they were both present on each other's sets, so...
Correct.
Tarantino's 7th movie is just as much Grindhouse as it is Death Proof. Especially since he's in Planet Terror. Twice. He's the rapist, and he's also the zombie that bites Fergie. Because he freaked Fergie out by actually biting her. He like left a mark on her arm and everything. So obviously the decision was to do it as Grindhouse instead of just Death Proof. But I'll probably spend more time on Death Proof just for the sake of argument.
Yeah.
This was something that he and Rodriguez have been planning on doing for like ever, because of their love for Grindhouse movies. Even though, you know, it's best known for being a massive bomb at the box office, for the simple fact that everybody knew it was going to be over 3 hours long, because it's 2 movies. And not many people are keen on doing that.
Willing to sit through a 3-hour movies.
Yeah. Unless they're like really, really hardcore fans of Tarantino or Rodriguez. That was basically... Which is probably good, because the hardcore fans are probably the best for this type of movie. Because a normal moviegoer might have a different reaction to this. But there was... should I just go into Planet Terror completely?
Sure. I've got it right here.
Since we're doing Grindhouse as a whole anyway. I think it was originally called Operation Terror, I think. But then he decided to make it sound more grand, so he changed it to Planet Terror. And this was our next appearance of Earl McGraw from Dust to Dawn and Kill Bill. But he's like actually a major character now, because he's Marley Shelton's dad and Brolin's father-in-law that he never liked. We actually open on we open on Rose McGowan doing her dance, obviously, to that awesome score that Rodriguez composed, like the saxophones and shit.
Yeah.
Which is the theme to the movie. And I didn't even talk about the Machete trailer, but we'll get back to that.
We'll talk about trailers.
We'll talk about the trailers in the middle.
Like nature intended.
So, we actually open on her, and, you know, it lets her know that she's a stripper, but she hates her life because she cries and shit. It's go-go, not cry-cry.
Yeah.
But then we're introduced to David Andrews and Bruce Willis, and they have the guy, and they cut his balls off with that specially made knife that's made just for cutting balls off. And they got the whole container of them. But then this, you know, hustle and bustle releases whatever that is that makes people zombies. And it's disgustingly over the top in a humorous way.
DC2? Project Terror?
And it's kind of funny, because my mom doesn't like gore.
Okay.
My mom loves Planet Terror, because it's disgusting, but it's so over the top about it that you're enjoying it more than being grossed out. I mean, you're being grossed out by it, of course, but in an enjoyable fashion, like the Tarantino way.
Yeah, it's got an Evil Dead vibe or a Dead Alive vibe, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Trauma.
Yeah, most people see it as a comedy.
It is, pretty much.
But then you have this whole other subplot with Brolin and Marley Shelton, because she's actually having an affair behind Brolin's back with Fergie.
Yep.
And, you know, we get the scene where they bring Brolin to Fergie's body and they say, this one's a no-brainer. And, of course, you know, her head's been hollowed out.
Yeah.
Puns. You love puns.
I hate puns.
This movie, what I really love, I wish more movies would do this, but Rodriguez is the only one I know of that actually does it. This DVD has an audience reaction track.
Very nice.
From audio he recorded from a showing in Austin. It's like a big film festival there. And he did it for the special edition of Sin City also.
South by Southwest?
I'm not sure. Maybe.
The Draft House, I'm guessing.
So, and then you have your other story with Freddie Rodriguez and Rose McGowan and all that. Now you, what movie was it recently? There's a movie that ripped off the Machine Gun Leg. What was it?
The Last Stand?
It was really recent. I forget. It'll come to me.
It's something we reviewed because I remember you talking about it in the review.
It'll come to me in a minute. But anyway, oh my god, I lost my place. Shit, god damn it. Okay,
Talk about Freddie Rodriguez and Rose McGowan.
Yeah, there's actually, it's actually a lot about character. I can't remember what was in. I'm so used to this version now. I can't remember what all was cut. A lot was cut out of it when it was as Grindhouse. Like, there's a different introduction to Brolin and Marla Shelton and all that. And Rodriguez's son, who plays their son. There's actually a funny thing about in the movie, Marla Shelton gives her son a gun and says, "Don't play with it or you'll blow your own face off." And she walks outside, and we hear the gunshot, and he has blown his whole face off. Well, what happened was, obviously that was just a dummy of his son, and because he didn't want to actually tell his son that his character died. So to basically, I don't know if he had this on standby in case he needed it, or if it was just a ruse so his son didn't know that he died in the movie, but he actually shot scenes to where his son survived the whole movie. And didn't tell him. And he said, he says on the commentary, it's going to be like, it's just going to be one long pep talk when he's older. It's, Santa Claus isn't real, the Easter Bunny's not real, you died in plain terror. Like, people don't know why this happens. It's actually because of this. At the end, when they all get to the plane, and they're all on board, Marla Shelton actually gets off and goes to another plane. That's where she runs into Brolin. The reason she's getting off the plane and going to, or the helicopter and going to another one is to see if there's another one with room for her son. But obviously that makes no sense in the actual movie because they never went for the son survives story.
No.
So since this is the Tarantino segment, let's talk about the Tarantino scene. Despite the fact that Rodriguez wrote this movie, I can't help but think Tarantino may have written his own dialogue. Because of the scene when, the first time we see him, they're in the elevator with Rose McGowan and Marla Shelton. And he says, do you like Ava Gardner? And he's wearing the gigantic gas mask, and it just comes out garbled.
Yeah.
So he takes it off and asks Rose McGowan if she likes Ava Gardner, because she kind of looks like Ava Gardner. And then he goes to the speech about how, he asks her if she knows what the gun is, and then he says, if I pull the trigger, a bullet hits you right there, and you don't look like Ava Gardner no more. Either he ad-libbed that, or he wrote his own dialogue. It has to be the case.
With him, it could be either one.
Or, well, I don't know, they know each other really well. Rodriguez may have gone into the Quentin mindset and wrote the character as
It's a good possibility as well.
And then, of course, there's the famous scene where they do, it's an ode to Zombie. I think the actual title is Zombie 2, but most people just know it as Zombie. It's the famous scene where the girl gets the giant splinter of wood in her eye. And it's horrific and disgusting. Of course, that is a callback to what happens to Tarantino, which is, she doesn't get the machine gun leg until the end. For the most part, it's just a table leg, a wooden one. And she kicks Tarantino over upside his head and breaks it, and then sticks the shard of it into his eye, and it breaks off. But then he's he's gotten rid of his mask, so he's turning into the zombie-like things. And he pulls his pants down because he's getting ready to rape her, but he's horrified to see that what was once in the place of down there is now dripping and disgusting gobs onto the floor. And he's chasing her with his pants around his ankles and his junk basically dripping down and onto the floor. And then he pukes, and it's like this, I don't know, it looks like squids or something coming out of him. It's very, very disgusting. But then, you know, she gets the machine gun leg and blows him away. Through his balls, by the way, what was left of them. So, Planet Terror is a wild ride. But, it's a very interesting contrast between these two. Because a lot of people think they're completely unrelated, which is totally not true. And I'll get to that in just a second. But, I like the contrast of Planet Terror is just blood and guts constantly, and it's really disgusting. Like, I was sick to my stomach the first time I saw Grindhouse in the theater. But then, you know, you have the contrast of Death Proof, which is, it's got that one really graphic car wreck scene. But apart from that, it's pretty much all dialogue. And so you have the massive over-the-topness of Planet Terror, and then the quiet, foreboding building of Death Proof, which is paid off in its last 20 minutes. As far as the similarities, apparently the order is... Death Proof is in 2 parts. There's the first set of girls and the second set of girls that are like a couple of months later or something. I believe the chronological order is the first part of Death Proof, then Planet Terror, then the second part of Death Proof.
That makes sense.
In a different area. That doesn't explain the zombie overrun world, but whatever. There were, I'm sure old Grindhouse movies weren't great on continuity either. That's like the missing reel stuff. Like, Grindhouse still, or Planet Terror still does the missing reel part where it cuts off the sex scene between Fred Rodriguez and Rose McGowan. And it says missing reel, and then suddenly, you know, the building's on fire, and Michael Bean's been shot, and we have no idea what happened.
Draw your own conclusion.
Because that was Tarantino's thing. He'd go to, like, he'd, like, have old film prints, and one of them would be missing an entire reel, so he loved playing the game of going from one reel to the other and trying to use context clues in the movie to figure out what happened in the missing reel. And as Grindhouse, Death Proof's missing reel is the lap dance. But of course, the full movie Death Proof has no missing reel, and the lap dance is intact.
Does Planet Terror have the missing reel in the full movie?
Yeah.
Nice.
Some of the similarities are the connections. I guess they're really in there because I was talking online with somebody, and when I explained this, it totally blew their mind because they didn't catch any of them. At the beginning of Planet Terror, Fergie's car is broken down, and she's, you know, trying to get gas and trying to get attention. And right before she turns the radio off, you hear "In Loving Memory of Jungle Julia," which of course is Sidney Poitier's character, who I want to say it's his granddaughter or something. They're related, but I can't think of how. But anyways, that's her character in Death Proof who died in the car wreck. That's how you know the first part of Death Proof had to have come first. Then you have a continuation of the story that was happening in Planet Terror was obviously I said Earl McGraw is Marla Shelton's dad, and they don't get along. And you don't really know, if you see Death Proof by itself, you don't know what is going on. I wonder what people in Cannes thought of this little part. It goes by, like, even though they weren't clued in, it probably just went in and out because it's just such a passing moment. But we learn in Planet Terror that they don't get along. And in Death Proof, Stummy and Mike is at the hospital that Marla Shelton works at, and Earl McGraw is there investigating and doing his thing. And after they have a conversation, Marla Shelton leaves angrily and just says, "asshole," and we don't know what her beef is with him unless you've seen Planet Terror, of course.
Yep.
There's the crazy babysitter twins. The girls that are babysitting Marla Shelton's son. that go insane and start beating her car with shovels. Well, they say they have to get going because they got shit to do. Well, of course, their shit to do turns out to be when all the girls go to the bar in Death Proof when they meet Stuntman Mike. We get this long shot of we see the billboard with Jungle Julie, and then we pan down to the parking lot and we see them pull in. And then in this long take, we see the Crazy Babysitter twins coming in and going into the bar. So that must have been what the shit they had to do.
Nice.
Now, I've never seen it, and I don't know how this is with continuity, but I keep reading that if you watch close enough in Planet Terror, the hospital scenes in Planet Terror, you can see Stuntman Mike in one of the hospital beds. I've never seen it myself, but I keep hearing that, so I don't know. It would make sense, obviously. It's the same hospital. So.
Obviously.
So yeah, let's go right into Death Proof now. Let's get this off the table right now, or on the table right now, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
Tarantino himself will even say this, like from his own perspective. It's pretty much the consensus that Death Proof is Tarantino's worst movie, but you know, Tarantino's worst and most people's best.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, here's the thing. As I said, I am, as somebody who wants to make movies, I can say this. I do agree that Death Proof is his worst movie, but that's the word worst is. It's his least best movie.
We'll go with that.
And it's something that it's one of those movies where, like, if people want to make movies or people write screenplays, I think if you're in that mindset, Death Proof is one of those movies that you wish you had thought of.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's a little... Death Proof is great in the confines of Grindhouse, because it's cut pretty well. Admittedly, there are scenes in the full cut of Death Proof that feel unnecessary. Like, there's this 10-minute long scene of them at a convenience store. It does have a good moment in it, though. It's, I'm trying to remember what all was cut and what all wasn't. Well, this convenience store scene, it goes into, obviously they like doing the messing with the film thing.
Yeah.
In the middle of this scene, it goes into black and white, and it stays that way for most of the scene. And Stuntman Mike pulls into the convenience store that they're parked in. Rosario's like asleep in the back, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead is like oblivious in the front seat. And Rosario and Tracy Thoms are inside. Oh no, Tracy Thoms is still in the car. It's just Rosario that goes in, I think, regardless. Anyway, and of course we get Quentin brings his foot fetish back. Rosario has them out the window while she's sleeping. And this is how this explains something. When he does this weird thing where he throws his keys in the parking lot next to their car, and they can't see. They're oblivious in the front seat, and Rosario's asleep. She's got like something over her eyes. So Stuntman Mike goes right up to her foot and licks his finger and lightly touches it. And when she wakes up, he says, "Where the hell are my keys?" And oh, there they are. And to make it look like he just bumped into her when he walked by.
Yeah.
That would explain why they act like they know him when he shows up at the end and chases them. Because that scene wasn't in the original cut. But when they don't really come out and say it, but you can kind of tell, like, there's a familiarity when they see him at the end, like they've seen him before. That's why. Like I said, the lap dance scene is new, and which is funny because it's one of the most famous scenes associated with the movie now, and it wasn't even in the original cut. It was the missing reel. I don't know why it was taken out because it's such a brief shot, but it sets up the tone, I guess. I don't know why it was cut out, but they go to that Mexican place to get margaritas, and then they're gonna go to the other bar is their plan, and it's the scene where Sidney Poitier is doing the dialogue about the poem, the monologue about the poem, where if somebody, like, she said on her radio station, if somebody said that poem to Vanessa Ferlito, that she would give them a lap dance and all that. in the original cut, it just jumps straight to them at the bar. But in this cut, there is a shot that's about 30 seconds. And we see them coming out, like stumbling out of the Mexican place, getting ready to go to the bar. And Summer Mike is parked across the street, and he's just laughing in the darkness. Like, we just see his silhouette. We don't see, like, they don't show his face. But then we see his eyes in the rearview mirror. And he brings down his visor, and we see the pictures of them. Because, you know, we learn later that's what he does. And I don't know why that was taken out. I guess to maybe give him more, shrouding more mystery, I guess. But we don't really... I do love this, the scene where he's at the bar and he's shoving those nachos in his face. And we get the, he's kind of hunched over at the bar, and then we hear the girls laughing, and then we get that shot of him turning around, and we zoom in on him. That's the first shot we get of his face. I guess it brought more to that, because since we get a glimpse of his face in the rearview mirror and all that.
Yeah.
Now, and then of course we have the... That's a lot of people's problems. There's this whole thing I don't think was in the original cut of this guy that wants to hit on Vanessa Ferlito, and she goes outside and she meets him, and then they go and they make out, and then they come back. That's like its own whole thing that's not in the original cut, I think. And then I guess that's why people complain about it so much, because it feels like a whole lot of nothing. The problem, Death Proof is build up, is what the whole movie is. That's why it's structured the way it is. So, then of course, finally, we get to the scene where they're in the parking lot, and he's going to give Rose McGowan a ride. And we get that nice scene where everything seems fine. We know he's a little eerie because he's been stalking them, but we don't know what he's doing. We have no idea what his plan is. So they get to where they're going to turn out of the parking lot, and he asks Rose McGowan which way she's going, left or right. And when she says right, there's a musical cue that's really dark. And he does the, well, if you were going left, it would have been a while before you started getting scared, but since you're going right, I'm afraid you're going to have to start getting scared immediately. And he takes off left. And then, oddly enough, it's really late, so there's nobody on this road, and he's just speeding down the road like a psychotic. He's going like 100 miles an hour. And we get his fucking, duck logo, which by the way, everybody loves his duck head ornament, which everybody loves pointing out is a goof because the duck head ornament is not featured on the posters for some reason. And then of course his monologue about this car is 100% death proof. Only get the full benefit. You really need to be sitting in my seat because he's strapped in and she's just in this
bucket seat on the side.
And he slams on the brakes and smashes her face into the dashboard. And he sits there and watches as she chokes on her own blood and dies.
Yeah.
Now, of course, you have I guess you'd say Vanessa Ferlito is the Jana Lee, because she's kind of the center of attention here. She's like the visiting cousin and all that. Well, the reason I say Jana Lee, of course, is because you kind of expect that they might be the heroes of the movie if you don't know the full story.
Mm-hmm.
And he speeds past them, Jeepers Creepers style. Goes all the way down to the end of the road, turns around, turns off his headlights, and speeds towards them while they're listening to Dave D. Dozy Beaking Mittentich, I think is the and then just as the song is reaching its end, he speeds up. And right as he's about to hit them, he turns his headlights on. And just announces them. We see them, there's 4 people in the car. And I think he shows us the wreck 4 times to show us how each girl died specifically. Yeah, the girl, I think, got her head cut off. And then Jungle Julia's leg just flies down the street. Jordan Ladd, got thrown from the car, I think. And Vanessa Ferlito gets her face ripped off by the back tire. Now, there was something that was going to be in there, but people thought it was too much overkill, and it probably was, so it's a good thing it was taken out. Apparently, it was actually shot, so poor Kurt Russell for having to go through this, only to have it cut. Obviously, Earl McGraw tells us that Stuntman Mike does this because he gets off on it.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, somewhere, there is deleted footage of Stuntman Mike in the overturned car after the wreck, jerking off.
Oh, God. So it's like Crash.
Yeah.
And no, I'm not referring to the Best Picture winner. I'm referring to the
Cronenberg movie.
the David
James
Cronenberg
Spader.
movie. Yes.
So, and then we go into the second half, and it turns out there are, like, gearheads and stunt girls and all that. Zoe Bell's playing herself, of course.
Yeah.
And they go into this monologue, the dialogue about, I keep getting monologue and dialogue mixed up. There's this really great scene that calls back to the diner scene of Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
Where they're in the diner and it's going around them. And that's actually a Tarantino trait, but it's mainly associated with the breakfast scene in Reservoir Dogs. Well, the interesting thing about the scene is they're setting up the chase at the end because they're talking about Vanishing Point and the original Gone in 60 Seconds and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And she finds this Challenger that's for sale from the guy from Big Daddy. Not Big. I always associate him with Big Daddy. It's every Sandler movie. And he was also the trucker in Kill Bill. But
Jonathan Loren.
Yeah, however you say his name. And they leave Mary Elizabeth Winstead as collateral. I heard we're supposed to assume. So he's basically a rapist.
Yeah.
And they leave Mary Elizabeth Winstead with him. I've been told we're supposed to assume he might be the same character in Death Proof and Kill Bill. Obviously, Death Proof coming first because the bride killed him when she woke up. Meaning something bad happened to Mary Elizabeth Winstead. She didn't get to join in the fun, unfortunately, in her cheerleader outfit. But back to the diner scene. While they're doing this, talking about what they're gonna do with the Challenger, we're circling around them. You can see at the bar area, Stuntman Mike is sitting back there, and you don't see him for a while. You can see his black shirt and his jeans, but he's got his back to us, so you can't really tell. You think maybe it might be him, but you can't tell. But then one of the times we turn around, he's actually turned around staring at them, and that's how you can tell. And then halfway through the scene, you can see him get up and leave. So, that's a really great shot. And that's when we start getting more profilic shots of them at the table after Stuntman Mike leaves, so we could get that shot in of him watching them. And then one of the best car chases in movie history takes place when they play Ship's Mast, which is apparently a game where Zoe gets on the hood of the car and has belts that are tied to the doors, only to hang on to. And that's when Stuntman Mike decides to attack. But of course, after he's had enough, he just pulls over and says, "That was fun," and then, "Adios." But before he can leave, Kim shoots him with the gun that was built up earlier. With the, I want to do my laundry at midnight, I need protection. And it's like, why don't you just not do your laundry at midnight? I do my laundry whenever the fuck I want to do my laundry. It's like, why don't you just carry a knife or something? You know what happens to people who carry knives? They get shot.
Very true.
So, and then of course it turns into a revenge movie, and they chase Stuntman Mike for the rest of the movie. And we get that great shot where he thinks he's run them off the road. And this has gone on for a while, so his response is, "Jesus fucking Christ, it's about time." But then they're on the road above him, and they come back down, they flip his car, they pull him out, and they beat the holy fuck out of him, and the movie ends. But not before Rosario literally sticks her boot through his head.
Yeah.
And there's this really creepy theory. When the credits are rolling, we see flashes of pictures of women.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently there's a theory that those are old Stuntman Mike victims.
Could be.
I would just like to mention that we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. We're going into next week. But
Okay.
after they flip Stuntman Mike's car and his body is like broken in the driver's seat, he's hanging out the window.
Mm-hmm.
He's screaming. And the scene in Bastards, when the theater explodes, there's a flaming body that flies out of the window that's screaming. And that is the exact audio of Kurt Russell screaming in the scene.
Nice.
And you can really tell if you know it. So yeah, obviously we'll talk about Tarantino's cameo as Warren the bartender.
Yep.
There's not much to go on with that. He's got the line everybody loves to quote about. He says, "I'm Stuntman Mike," and she says, "What do you do?" And he's like, I'm a stuntman. And then she's like, Warren, who is this guy? Stuntman Mike. Who the hell is Stuntman Mike? He's a stuntman. He's like, you may have heard of my brother. Who's your brother? Stuntman Bob. And he goes through all these shows. It's really funny because I watched this with my dad one time, and he's going through all these old shows that he was a stuntman on, and then they're all just staring at him like especially Rose McGowan's really got that deer in the headlights look. He's like, do you have any idea these shows I'm talking about? And they're like, no. And my dad said, is it bad? I know every show he's talking about.
I don't remember the list off the top of my head, but I do remember knowing most of them.
The Virginian was in there for some
reason.
reason.
The Virginian's on there.
But yeah, so yeah, Death Proof gets a lot of shit.
Yes.
For being his worst movie, but it's still, quality, by all means. And like I said, if anything, if you hate the movie, that's fine, but I mean, nobody can say anything bad about that last 20 minutes.
No.
That's like masterful. That's like some of the best things he's ever done. Like, I would put, like, Death Proof is called his worst movie. If I had to name the top 5 Tarantino moments, the last 20 minutes of Death Proof would be in it. For sure.
Well, we just made that a task for the final video of August now. There'll be a lot of top 10s and top lists in that video, but I'll talk about that in a couple of weeks.
So yeah, he was telling a story once. When he was promoting Bastards, he was talking about how he went out to get drinks at this bar, and this bar was like, the people that ran the bar were like huge fans of his, and they always played his movies.
Yeah, I remember this story.
And I think he said the only movies they played were Kill Bill 2 and Death Proof, but their Death Proof DVD was fucked up, so
Yep.
It would get to right before the car crash was going to happen, and it would just go back to the beginning and just loop all day, the first 50 minutes or so. So, yeah. So that's Grindhouse and moreover Death Proof. We didn't go into the fake trailers. Should we do that real quick?
Yes.
There's
so many good ones.
My personal favorite of them is Don't.
Don't is my favorite too.
Because I love the Edgar Wright did it, and Simon Pegg's in it, Nick Frost is in it. For some reason, Jason Isaacs is in it. And it's this I guess it's just like a haunted house movie or something, but I'll say the tagline is just don't look up, don't look down, don't watch this alone. if you are thinking of going into this house alone, don't. And then at the just don't is just covered the screen, and he said it like 50 times. And then it's if you are thinking of seeing this film alone, don't. And then we just get this one really quick don't to punctuate as punctuation right before it ends. There's also Thanksgiving's a great one.
Thanksgiving actually should have been made into a movie.
Yeah, it was going to, but I think it got dropped. Eli Roth talked about it in his AMA. I think he said he was working on it, but I don't know if that's still true or not. Obviously, Eli Roth's voice is the voice that says, white meat, dark meat, all will be carved. And they play the eerie score from Creepshow, and it's the girl stripping while she's jumping on the trampoline, and she goes to do a mid-air split, and just as she lands on the trampoline, a knife comes through. I'd like to point out that Jay Hernandez plays the guy that's making out and gets decapitated.
Yeah.
Conveniently enough, he used the same decapitated Jay Hernandez body that he used for Hostel 2.
Yeah. That trailer almost earned them an NC-17 rating. Just for that.
There's the great scene where there's he's dressed as a turkey in the parade, and the killer comes out with an axe and he's dressed like a pilgrim, and he cuts the guy's head off, and he's still running around. And then we see Michael Bihn's character from Planet Terror.
Yep.
And they're investigating, and it's this really funny moment where he actually picks the blood up off the ground with his finger and tastes it, and he's like, "Sir, it's blood." And Michael Biehn looks off into the abyss and goes, "Son of a bitch." I did not mean to say Michael Biehn looks into the abyss. A movie he just happened to be in, by the way.
I mean, there's a couple more than that, too.
There's Werewolf Woman of the SS, which is Rob Zombie's one, with Udo Kier and Tom Tolles. And of course...
Test and Vladimir Kozlov are in it, too.
The payoff of that is Nicolas Cage's Fu Manchu.
Yeah, it is. Hobo with a Shotgun.
Hobo with a Shotgun actually wasn't in. It was in, like, select Grindhouse showing.
It's not even exactly what it's saying right here.
When it was ours, we didn't have it. Of course, Hobo with a Shotgun's a real movie now with Rutger Hauer.
And then, of course, the movie that actually did get made, and it's going to get a sequel very soon. That's Machete.
Yeah, which I thought was a really bad idea. Because I know people want to see these movies as movies, you know, but I think it just totally ruins the magic of them having been fake trailers to making them into movies. Like, I don't know. Eli Roth was going to make a movie like this called Trailer Trash.
Yep.
There was just a bunch of fake trailers, but that got killed. We also have the commercials like the Acuna Boys.
Yep.
And we see that later in the movie and Death Proof. And brought to you from your friends at the Weinstein Company. We see the happy tune and we see the cat. And then the cat turns into like a cougar and it says this one was restricted.
Yeah, that was great.
And then the our feature presentation thing that we actually see at the beginning of Jackie Brown as well. And I want to say Kill Bill had it too, I think.
Yeah, I remember the first time I watched this movie. I did get to watch this theatrically, and there's not many people in this town that got to, because it wasn't out very long.
I saw it late. I saw it like in its last week.
My friend at the time, he was a. We'll just cut you off right now. A friend at the time basically was a manager.
No friend at all to anybody ever.
That's a shoot. There was no manager. Well, he was the manager at the time. So there was times that back in the day we used to preview movies, and it was one of the greatest things ever. And you've been a part of it, actually. You previewed your own movie before.
Yeah.
So Night Museum, actually. But I remember watching this. I watched my movie, and then we watched Grindhouse, and this was at 3:00 in the morning. It was just me and him, and that was it. They were the only people in the entire theater. And I remember leaving that building, and it was like the sun was just coming up. And we had just watched basically a 3-hour movie. Like two movies.
It's 3 hours and 12 minutes.
Okay. So we had about 3 hour and 15-minute movie. With the trailers and everything. And I remember laughing hysterically during all the trailers. I mean, the line from Machete that obviously got thrown in the movie is definitely one of my favorite lines in the entire concept of the fake trailers. And I love Don't. Don't was great. Werewolf Women of the SS was always great.
Oh, let me bring that up. Them making a movie out of Machete actually ruined what I thought was one of the funniest parts of the whole trailer.
Really?
At the very end, we have, if you're going to hire Machete to kill the bad guy, you better make damn sure the bad guy isn't you. And we have him ramping, and he's like firing a gun off his motorcycle, and it pauses and says Machete. And then, rated X.
Rated X.
Obviously, Machete is not rated X, so now that joke is ruined.
Yeah. And Machete Kills, actually, the trailer for it looks a lot like a Grindhouse fake trailer, too.
Yeah, it's got the same narrator.
It's the exact same narrator.
So, that would be this segment. So next week we're going to have Bastards.
We're going to have some fun next week, it looks like.
Yeah, you're going to be noticing I'm wearing the same clothes because I'm going to go ahead and destroy the illusion right now.
Yeah.
As soon as the camera shuts off, we're going to be filming the Bastards segment that you'll see next week. So, yeah.
A lot of video being shot today due to the fact that we have a lot, and I do mean a lot of movies to watch in the next couple of...
I have hot dog sauce all over these jeans.
That's interesting. Did not know that.
I didn't... Okay.
Well, I'm off camera, so no one can see what I'm doing, so we're good. So,
until 2 minutes from now, or should I say next week?